And good day once again. This is Steve Woodhouse, Marion County Tribune, here with another edition of Would You Like to Chat? And my guest today is outgoing Pella Police Chief Robert Bokinsky. In case you didn't read on our website, Chief Bokinsky is moving on to Scottsdale, Arizona for a new position. He's been with the department for 8 years, so we're just going to chat with him about his time in Pella and his career. So thanks for joining me today.
Well, thank you for having me on the show with you today, Steve.
And can you just kind of give us a little bit of your background of what your career was like before you got to Pella?
Certainly, this May will actually mark 41 years of law enforcement experience for me as a sworn officer. I started off in Ocean City, Maryland, and that's where the largest portion of my career was served. Ocean City is a resort community, and as one might guess, on the ocean in Maryland. It serves the Philadelphia, Baltimore, Washington, even Northern Virginia areas. Uh, a lot of tourists from New York, Pittsburgh, as far away as Pittsburgh. And just to put it in perspective, that community entertains about 8 million tourists a year, which places it over the Hawaiian Islands. Uh, the community itself is only about 10,000 people, but on any given day, you're going to have 30 to 35,000 people there. On any weekend, year round, you're going to have at least 100,000 there, and in the summer, you have 350,000 is the population there. Once the weather gets nice. Very challenging environment to police. Most of my career there was as an investigator, either a criminal investigator or a commander in a criminal investigation division. But I had the benefit of serving in essentially every rank in that department and in every division within that agency as well. And it gave me a very comprehensive background. Again, my strength is in criminal investigations, but there really wasn't anywhere I served that I didn't enjoy the work.
And um, I take it that Pella was probably quite the leap from Ocean City as far as a difference in community. Can you kind of tell us about how you adapted to Pella?
Oh yeah, just again to put things in perspective, in Ocean City, there were evenings. Just I would have a squad when I was assigned to one unit. We'd have 8 of us working, and we would make over 100 arrests. In Pella, that accounts for maybe a couple months, like 6, 7, 8 months
Yeah.
at this point in time. When I first came to Pella, we were averaging about 300 arrests a month. That number's down considerably. Uh, but yeah, very, very busy, and again, very challenging. If you think about the population turning over 90, 95% every single week, uh, you have a crime occur, you have a suspect who may not be from Ocean City, a victim not from Ocean City, all of your witnesses not from Ocean City, and uh, they're there to commit the crime, and then everybody's gone. So now you have to put the pieces back together. So you learn a lot about investigations, about how the timing. You got to get on your cases very, very fast. Uh, we traveled a lot, traveled an awful lot. So that portion of our budget, I don't want to say it was excessive. It wasn't excessive. It was a necessity, but we had to do it. We had a duty. When somebody's a victim of a crime, they look to law enforcement for justice, and it's a heavy burden that we carry, but it's one that we accept gladly to see to it that the right thing is done. So uh, we had cases where we traveled from Wisconsin to Florida to up. I don't want to say every state in the union, but we traveled a lot, and but we had very, very good success as investigators. Everybody was highly trained, and uh, I guess something I should capture here as well is in a unit like that or in a division like that, you have the advantage of picking the elite. So you just don't raise your hand and then I'm next up to go into that division. We have the opportunity to match the applicants with the skill set we're looking for. We had a very good idea of what made a good investigator, and we tested to those competencies, and that had everything to do with the success we had, having the right people in place. Coming to Pella, um, again, I went from an agency that would have 250 sworn police officers in the summer. When I came to Pella, there's 14 of us. So that right there is a huge change. But I knew what I was stepping into, and with that uh, came a lot of challenges. No surprises, really. I just knew that, for instance, turnover is an issue here. uh, Meaning if we have turnover, if you lose an officer, that's 1/14 of your department. If you lose two of them, that's 1/7 of your entire police department's gone. And to replace that police officer, you have to go through a hiring cycle that might take 4 to 6 months. And then once that officer is hired, I guess about a 22-week police academy. And then after that, they go through field training. So you might be down a year.
Mhm.
So turnovers is key. Whereas you go to a larger agency and they lose them by the dozens, and you don't really notice sometimes. So I knew that that was important to our agency for us to continue to work, continue to function on all cylinders, so to speak. And so we've done some things in the agency to really cut back on turnover, and I think we've been quite successful in that regard, actually. We do lose officers on occasion. We've had retirements. We've had people just, leave police work. We have had some go to other departments, but only really two, and one of them's not even in police work anymore. But for the most part, our turnover compared to other agencies, your standard law enforcement agency in Iowa, we are very, very low. So that's a good accomplishment for us. And the way we did that is, starts with challenging the officers. It's it can be a tedious job if you allow it to be a tedious job. So we put a great emphasis on criminal investigations, for instance. Of course, you would expect that for somebody like me, but
Mhm.
it's like if you want to make a difference in your community, it's not always how many tickets you write. It's you have people who are truly victims of crime out there. Somebody breaks into their house or they're assaulted, they are a victim. And you want to make a difference in a community, you find out who did it, and you get to the bottom of things and see to it that justice is served. They had things stolen. Let's get that property back. Let's hold people accountable for their actions. So that's where you make a difference. And the officers have really responded well to that. That's number one. Number two is uh, when you look at an agency like Pella, we have 4 lieutenants and they're all young. So when you're hired, you might be looking at the first day you're on the job, that might be as high as you go. And that's difficult for a lot of police officers to handle. Whereas you go to a larger agency, you have the opportunity to go, through the promotion process. You go to PFC, to corporal, to sergeant, to lieutenant, to captain, to major, to chief. Uh, there's a lot of promotions in there, and with each one comes a new or special challenge. And not only that, if you're not getting promoted, you can go from specialization to specialization, such as you can go to the narcotics unit or work on a task force or the criminal investigation division. You can go to intelligence division. You can go to the traffic division. You can become a school resource officer. So there's so many options that it helps avoid burnout and keeps officers engaged. So we've tried to do that in Pella as well. And the way we've done that is created these specializations. Now we need somebody to do it no matter what. So why not have these officers really drill down on these areas of specialization? For instance, we have several firearms instructors now. We had one when I came here, and now we have several. We have defensive tactics instructors. We had nobody serving as what we call an EVOC instructor, which is emergency driving essentially. And that is a very high liability area. As a matter of fact, what I've mentioned so far are very high liability areas for any law enforcement agency. So we've concentrated on those aspects of policing within the agency, make sure we're fortified, we're trained up well, our training is well documented, and that we have people who are specializing in that, who get special training, and they develop the expertise where they can actually train other agencies, just not us, but it keeps them engaged. It's almost like when I said the larger agencies, you go from specialization to specialization. We've actually created that environment in Pella, and we have some officers who are doing very, very well with that.
Yeah, and as you said, the number of arrests have really gone down in the time you've been serving here. Why do you think that is? There's just less crime. People are more aware of you. Why do you think that is?
This was something, Steve, that I was very excited when I first investigated Pella. I did a lot of research before I applied, and then before I was invited to test, I did even more research, and I wanted to know exactly what I was walking into. I wanted to understand the community, and just like the community is looking for a chief of police that's a good fit for the community, this community had to be a good fit for me. So I wanted to understand exactly what I was walking into. And I saw the arrest numbers, the crime problem wasn't what it was where I came from. You know, if I came here and said, yeah, I'm from Ocean City and I'm here to fix your homicide problem, I would have been laughed out of town. Uh, but one thing that I did do, and I have a background in crime analysis,
Hmm.
very interested in that aspect. I look at the crime patterns within Pella, the number of arrests. I think I went back 3 or 5 years. The number of arrests, the type of crimes that are being committed, and the crime was very, very flat in Pella, meaning it was the same from year to year to year. The number of arrests did not vary. The number of crimes committed didn't vary, but maybe 2 or 3%, very small. And what got me excited about that is when crime is that predictable, you can do something about it. It's when it's all over the place that creates problems for you. But in this case, I thought, oh my gosh, this is going to be a problem with respect to crime that we can solve in this community. And that was the case. When you when you took a look, or when I took a look, and our staff took a look at it, it was easy to determine that it was the what we call STP, the same 10 people committing all the crimes. And what we did is we began to focus not only on the individual cases in those investigations, but focus on the people who are our repeat offenders and make sure they, number one, they're held accountable. But when we did such a thing, it was a good case. It was a very strong case, something that the prosecutor's office could work with. And we have a very, I'm just going to throw this out, we have a very good prosecutor's office in Marion County. We're very fortunate. That's not the case everywhere, but they're very talented and very good partners in fighting crime for us, and they're right there, lockstep with us in this effort. We put together good cases, they put together good prosecutions, and we were able to get people in jail. And when they're in jail, they're not committing crimes in Pella, and that's where we first started to notice the crime started to drop. And it started to drop, and then when somebody was released, they got out of jail again. We knew who these people were. We knew where they were living, and by then, when they're out of commission, somebody else steps in to fill their hole. So now our same 10 people, same 20 people. But we spent a lot of time concentrating on that, and it has been a very, very effective tactic to use as far as fighting crime.
And um, the one thing that I've noticed in the time you've been here is the police department has gotten more communicative. Not only you are more communicative than your predecessor, but your lieutenants and everybody else always open and willing to talk. I very much appreciate that in my line of work. So was that just part of your overall philosophy for police work?
Coming in, yes. Now, I didn't have that background in my previous career. I know it is important. A relationship with the media is very important. It's just I never served in that capacity. But when I came here, this is a community, and for all intents and purposes, this is a county uh, where your agency has to be very service oriented. So we do a lot of stuff. And if you were to look at our top 10 calls for service in any given month, uh, you might have two of them, sometimes only one that's actually a crime.
Yeah.
And a lot of somebody locks the keys in the vehicle, we're helping them with that. A vehicle breaks down, stranded motorist. It could be any number of things, but we do a lot of hand-holding in the community. And again, we're very service-oriented, and that's good that we have the ability to do those things. Those service levels Doing those things at the level that we do is become an expectation. But coming into this community, uh, when I competed for the position, I was asked a question on an essay that we were required to write, and it talked about police officers being in their vehicles and not really engaging with the community and community members. It was obvious to me that this was a question that came forward from the community that they wanted to know our police officers. And again, I thought, boy, what a great situation to walk into. It's not like that. You go to, just a few years ago in Ferguson, Missouri, they didn't want to know the police officers. They wanted to run them all out of town. Uh, Here's Pella wants to know its police officers. I would imagine Knoxville's no different, and Pleasantville's no different. Uh, but um, we put a couple initiatives in place to get the officers out of the cars, get them engaging with the community. And again, the officers were very willing to do that. And once you do that, uh, you get to know people. People get to know you. You're just not a uniform that rides around in a car. You all look the same. The cars all look the same. It humanizes it. They come to know who we are. We come to know the public, and that's a situation that you want. We went into the Career Academy at Pella Community High School, and when that first opened, and we I don't want to say we created, but it was through DMAC. They had a criminal justice program, and we took that to the students at Pella High School, and we were told that this may not fly. There may not be much interest for it. We had the confidence that it would, and Lieutenant David Buchelman actually has been running with that program since we started. And our objective was uh, there are several actually. Number one, we wanted to use it as a pipeline for recruiting.
Yeah.
uh, there's a lot of good people in Pella, very good people, and a lot of good youth. And again, this gets back to the retention of personnel. Why should I go to Bloomington, Minnesota, or why do I need to go to Ocean City, Maryland, or California, or anywhere else to find a police officer when we have people of character right in our own community? So let's see if we can get them interested in law enforcement. Let us see you know, if this is something they would consider as a career. We've had great success there. We've only hired a few, but we've actually put a number of those students in law enforcement. Again, we don't have that many openings. We don't have the turnover, but what we're doing is we're feeding these people of character, quality individuals into the law enforcement world, and we can feel pretty good about that. So that was number one. And number two is, and this is every bit, if not more important, today they're youth. 15, 16, 18 years old, whatever it may be. Tomorrow, they're going to be college graduates and they're going to be in our workforce. And a lot of them are going to be right back in our community. And then they're going to marry and then they're going to have a family. And wow, who wouldn't want to have a connection with that? Starting all the way back, in the high school years. And that's how your police department becomes truly part of the community. Everybody knows everybody, and again, it humanizes us, it humanizes the public, and it makes things personal for everybody, and it's fun. This is the one of the things I'm going to miss a lot about Pella. I can't go anywhere without running into somebody that I know. It could be just shopping at a restaurant, just walking down the street. You end up stopping and talking to somebody, and that is just wonderful. I I can't imagine any police chief or police officer who wouldn't enjoy that. That's the fun part of the job. Uh, where I'm going, 4.8 million people in the Phoenix metro area. I don't know if I'll ever see the same two people twice, if I'm walking down the street. So that's quite a difference. So there is a true community here in Marion County and definitely in Pella.
And kind of touched on what I was going to ask you about next was just some of your favorite memories of Pella. Just obviously your line of work, not every memory is going to be good, but just what are some of the, in addition to making those connections and making the difference with the high school kids, what other best memories do you have?
Well, you're really touching on it there, Steve. I know a lot of times I've been asked, what's the biggest crime you've ever investigated? What's the worst, thing you've ever seen? What's the best case you've ever had? And it's not what people expect necessarily. And the same is true in Pella. I don't want to, you know, say, oh, wow, my greatest memory is this crime or this happened in that regard. I just think of the relationships that we've made with people in the community. That it starts right there. I go into the gym. I work out several days a week in the mornings, and it's a pretty neat experience to sit there and just chat with some of the people in the gym, and thinking, boy, it was just about 5 or 6 years ago you were sitting in our class, uh, or somehow we got to know you, and especially the students that are in our class, especially if they're on an athletic team, they're in jazz band or something like that. We've actually taken it the extra mile where we just don't see them in class and talk to them and hope we have an opportunity to mentor them someday. It's turned into, if they're on a basketball team, we go watch basketball games and they know we're there. We talk to them about it. Track team, football, like I said, jazz band, marching band. It could be any of the activities there. It's just fun to be part of their lives. And there's a lot of memories from high school for everybody. And just to be there through that. And there's one student in particular I'm thinking of. I'm not going to mention her by name, but she was an athlete at Pella High, and I have never seen an athlete that had ice water in her veins like she did. And just, seeing that, I'm like, wow, that is, I mean, everybody doesn't have that. As a matter of fact, very few people have that you can perform under pressure like that. And she was she's a very good athlete to start with, but just to see her perform that way, and then just talking with her about it afterward, I'm like, oh my gosh, you have ice water in your veins, and talk about it, at states and track, and you may not have been the fastest on the team, but you're the anchor person because you were the toughest. You were the toughest, and you were not going to let anybody pass you. And just to share those thoughts with them, and it can be any athlete, but they're like, wow, somebody saw that, somebody appreciated that, somebody recognized that. They might not even have recognized it in themselves. They're just out there having fun competing. But yeah, that's just developing those relationships, and now a lot of them are out of college and in the workforce, and some are married now, and that's been the greatest experience for me, is just getting to connect with the community. And here I just mentioned the youth, but it covers all spectrums. I'm a member of a service club. There's been people there much older than me, connecting with them, and I just really love people and try to learn from their experiences and their stories. That's the part I like the best about Pella.
And I tell me about how this opportunity with Scottsdale came up and why you chose to pursue it.
Okay, this was a very difficult decision for me. I came to Pella with every intention of this being my last move, and I was not disappointed here. Have a very nice home in a very nice neighborhood with very nice neighbors, and I just love our home. I love our community, and I'm very, very happy here. But we've just had circumstances in our family of a personal nature that have caused us to perhaps look elsewhere. Uh, for health reasons, we have family that lives in the Phoenix area, and it's almost as if it's a gathering place for our family. It seems like people are starting to move there, and if we wanted to be around family, we're going to have to do that. So that really is what piqued piqued our interest in looking or pursuing employment in that area. The other part of it is, I had great confidence that within the city of Pella, somewhere I would be able to find work, because the reality of it is I'm coming up on a mandatory retirement, age-based retirement under the state retirement system. I don't want to quit working. Just love what I do, and sometimes uh, I I shouldn't say this. I can't believe I get paid to do what I do. That's how you get a pay cut.
Yeah.
But no, I truly do. I just love my work. I love going to work every day. Uh, but yes, I would lose my job in a few years anyway. I have confidence I would be able to find work, maybe even within the city. Uh, but uh, when you consider I would be 4 years older, which means you're taking 4 years off the back end, it's four fewer years I'll be able to work. And employers really can't age discriminate, but there's always something in the back of their mind. They're doing the math and like, how long's this person going to be here for me? Yeah, that had to be part of the calculation too. When you looked at the big picture, it's like, am I going to be employable in 4 years? So,
So what exactly are you going to be doing for the Scottsdale department?
my position is I'm a director there. It's actually the police operations support director. I will answer to an assistant chief. Now, Scottsdale has almost 700 employees there, so it's a agency of considerable size. I will answer to again an assistant chief, and my immediate responsibilities will be going in. I'll oversee a lot of the civilian employees there, from the communications section, uh, record section, and perhaps others as areas as well.
And once you get to Arizona, it's not all going to be work, work, work. Will you be able to pursue some of your passions? Like I know you're a big wrestling fan. Will you still be able to catch plenty of Arizona wrestling and things like that?
I will. I certainly will. Uh, I have a son that lives there now. He has season tickets to the Arizona State wrestling team, so I'll probably be right there sitting next to him every match. I've done that here at Central College. I love wrestling. That's our family sport. So
And I know that Friday, March 6th, they're going to have a little open house celebration. Well, we're not celebrating the fact that you're leaving, Bo. We're celebrating you and the time we've had together. But from 4 to 6, they're having that little soiree. And I know March 6th is your last official day. Will you be packing up and moving like right then, or?
no, and it's very kind for the staff at the police department to put this together and organize it. It's nothing I ever asked for. It's nothing I ever expected. If the sun went down on Friday, March 6th, and I snuck out the back door without notice, I would have been okay with that. But it's nice to have the opportunity to say goodbye to people and visit with people. Like I said, this community's been very good to me. I have a daughter who's a realtor in town. She will stay behind. That'll be my anchor to come back frequently. But I am, yeah, that, again, it'll just be a very nice opportunity to visit with people. And I understand there'll be refreshments there. So I think they did that to guarantee that I would show up.
Bribe you with the sweets. That's the good.
We have some very, very gifted chefs in our police department, as far as baking cakes and pies, and I'm looking forward to that. That's for sure.
Well, then one of the words of wisdom you should leave them with is, invite your local news editor to enjoy some of those samples.
Yeah, we should do that.
Yeah. um, but basically, just from a personal standpoint, I've really enjoyed working with you. I'm gonna miss you personally, Um, but I want to wish you the best on behalf of myself and the Tribune, and I'm sure all of Marion County wishes you the best in your new endeavor there. And we hope to see you
Mhm.
come back here, like you said, you got your anchor here. But is there anything else in general you'd like to share with the good people of Pella and Marion County and the years you spent here?
Oh, no. Well, thank you for that opportunity, Steve. First off, I didn't really answer one of your questions earlier. You talked about how accessible we've been to the media. It's been a pleasure working with you, with the media in this area. The media is uh, so often viewed as the enemy, uh, not just in police circles, anywhere. They're afraid of the camera, they're afraid of the mic, they're afraid of the poison pen, and but you know what? There's no better friend, no better ally in law enforcement than the media when something has happened and we have to get the word out. So we want to have those good relationships with the media. We want to know you personally. We want you to know us personally, so that when something happens, we can get the word out. There's been occasions when there's been crimes, and whether you or somebody else from the media has come across some very sensitive information and unknowingly willing to print it or inclined to print it or a photograph, whatever it may be. And it's nice that we can go to you and tell you the whole backstory here and say, look, this is something that we don't want to share, but we think we need to share with you. And that we have the trust that you won't print it and actually might retract some things that were in there because it could be incredibly humiliating to a victim of a crime or anything along those lines. And it's just a partnership, and we get it. Our the lieutenants in our agency are very willing to speak to you because they get it. So we're just grateful here that we have a very responsible media is probably the best way to put that. Number two, I've said this so many times that this is not like the rest of the country. Maybe it's like the rest of Iowa, perhaps, but where I came from, I don't want to say where I'm going. I hope where I'm going is very much like this, but there's not only a sense of community, but there's a commitment to family values here, where there's things you just don't do and you don't say. Of course, when you're in your youth, you're inclined to make mistakes. When you're in college, alcohol comes into play and some foolishness occurs. And we get that. We understand that. I mean, I would be less than honest if I didn't say I wish I had a couple redos in my life. That we all do. But when I came to Pella and I thought, oh my gosh, this is a university town. Here we go. I dealt with a lot of that foolishness in Ocean City. It was almost like beach week every week, and or it's almost like a Girls Gone Wild video every day, and it's like, oh my gosh, this is, am I walking into this in Pella? And that is not the case. Midwestern values are not the same as the rest of the country. Uh, the youth here may think they're bad, and sometimes they do make mistakes, but their mistakes are little ones and things that you can easily recover from. And it has just been a blessing to work with good people and around good people and serve good people. This is a special job in law enforcement. Uh, I don't want to minimize what other people do in the workforce, but we're just specially placed where we can make a difference in people's lives if you want to. You appreciate that and understand that you can make a difference. And earlier, yes, or I commented on the crime that I remember the most. And I've had the opportunity to sit across the table from a number of serial killers in my career. And I know I was telling our class there was four of them. And then about last year, I'm like, oh, wait a minute, there's five. And then just the other day when I was at our career academy, I thought, oh my gosh, there's actually six. When you get down to what the definition of a serial killer is, and it's just, they all seem to run together. But who has that opportunity to sit, talk to somebody like that, with that kind of mind, that willingness to commit a crime over and over again of that magnitude? And so those are special experiences, but that's not what sticks with me the most. The case that sticks with me the most is where I had an opportunity to make a difference in somebody's life, and this young man had committed a crime, and he was 18 years old. He was a manager at a restaurant opening for breakfast, and he and his friends decided to perpetrate a robbery where they made it look like he was tied up and beat up, and he was beat up. His friends beat him up to make it look real. And but I was the on-call detective. I come in, I'm investigating it, and I was able to determine that things aren't lining up here. And if he's truly a victim of a crime, why is he lying to me? There's more to the story. So I invited him to come down to me with me to my office to get a good statement. And we talked and we talked and we talked, and finally he broke and said what happened. We were able to recover all the money, and of course now it's time to hold people accountable for what they did. But I remember talking to him about this is an opportunity in your life. This is a key moment in your life where you can change. You can you can you can continue with this bad behavior and making poor decisions and just go right down the toilet, uh, or you can change your life and say, I learned from this experience, and I'm not that person anymore, never again. And that's what he did. And I've run into this person, at least in the East, several times, and he went on to become a pastor. And just thinking that I was the one in the chair that had that conversation. Now, this might have happened anywhere, but I know it wasn't just get a confession. It was, this is a human being. This is truly a human being, and his life is worth something. He's a person of value, and let's get this guy turned around. And he did it. And I emphasize he did it, but at least I was able to be there to get him jump started. And those are the cases that really stick with you the most, and that's what makes law enforcement special. That you have that opportunity to make that difference. Um, I hope I made a difference in Pella somehow, and I was just grateful, so grateful for the opportunity I was given to do that.
And I know through my years of looking at sheriff's reports, I see a lot of the same names over and over again. I just think it really takes something special to turn, a criminal around like that. Would you say you've had more success than failure in being able to change lives?
No, I'd say I definitely had more failure. uh,
That's not your fault, though.
no, but you try. You
Mhm.
try to make a difference, and even those that you think there's no hope, it's not going to work here. You know what? This might be the one time where you do make a difference. I went to training about a year and a half, 2 years ago, actually with Ed Bull and Chief Lasada, and is up in Cleveland, and it was a very good training on the opioid epidemic in this country. And one of the presenters, they had 17 different presenters, and it's one of the better trainings I've been to in the last 8 years. But one of the presenters was a former addict, and she had just a troubled soul, a lot of problem, in and out of jail countless times. And you know, I'm thinking somewhere in the neighborhood of 27 to 32 times she had been arrested, sent to jail, and you just want to throw your hands up in the air and say she's hopeless. There's no hope for her at all. But you know what? She finally, that one time, she decided enough, and turned her life around. Now she runs a clinic where she counsels those with addictive personalities and addiction problems, helps them get out of that situation. She said she hated the police, hated them, and blamed them for all her troubles. She's now married to a police officer, and she this is she's in Ohio, and but just looking at that, and I actually went up and spoke to her after her presentation and said, "What was the difference?" I said, "I always thought that you're not really inclined to change until you hit rock bottom." And I always looked at it as, maybe that's the job of a police officer, is to help get you to rock bottom, accelerate that process, so to speak. And she said, "What's rock bottom?" She goes, "You tell me what rock bottom is," because she goes, "Where I was, uh, it was, it's probably about 2 or 3 feet below 6 feet underground." She goes, "Until I was dead, I wasn't going to hit rock bottom." She said, "For me, I just got tired of getting arrested, and it just wore me out." She said, "There's got to be a better way." And so that told me you just don't give up on people. You don't. And so there's a couple I can think of in our community. It's like, there's no hope for them. They're always going to be in trouble. They're always going to be in prison. They probably feel a lot more comfortable in prison than they do out of prison. But you don't give up hope. You reach out to every one of them and just hope you can make a difference. And sooner or later somebody does, and it might not be me. It might be another officer. It might be somebody in their church community, or somebody they went to school with. You just don't give up on people.
That's a pretty good lesson and a pretty good way to wrap up things. But is there anything more you want to add about your time in Pella and looking forward to the future?
No, I'm really gonna miss Bella, And I think anybody who leaves Pella is going to miss Pella. And I think that's why so many leave and then come back. Uh, and this is actually a very exciting time in Pella when you consider all that's happening.
Oh yeah.
There is so much development about to happen or it's just started. And you're looking at a revitalization of an entire corridor, that Oskaloosa Street. There's, that's in the planning stages, and actually some work has already started there. And uh, there's just community partnerships out there with Pellicor and Vermeer, and it's good to see businesses like that are so invested in the community that they're willing to, spend the money, dedicate manpower, do the work to make a difference in the community. And uh, you can see it all around us. I don't know if people realize how much they have done, those corporations, and there's others, PPI and the college, and I could just go on and on and on. But that is of great value to any community, and that is making all the difference. They need workforce housing. Uh, they just don't jump up and down and throw a tantrum until it happens. They're not talking the talk; they're walking the walk, and that is good. And that just shows there's great hope for this community, and yeah, we're very fortunate to have them.
Indeed, we are very very thankful to have had you the past 8 years, and we're obviously all thankful to be a part of the Pella community. Thank you everyone for taking the time to join us today. Thank you, Chief Bokinsky, for everything, and we wish you the best.
Well, thank you very much, Steve. Thanks for this opportunity.
I'm Steve Woodhouse. You've been enjoying Would You Like to Chat? Have a great day.